Welcome, travelers. I'm Josh.
And I'm Lee Wanika. And this is Tabletop Journeys, where we will be your not-so-humble guides on the quest for RPG adventures.
Time rolling around, and Oliver Booth does stop socializing and heads over to a nondescript door on the back wall of this main bar room restaurant that you're in, and opens up the door. He looks around over the crowd and he spots you, and he's pointing over at you and he's gesturing to you to follow him. It looks like it goes into some back interior room of the building.
Obviously, I'll get up, I'll leave a tip for Bromley, and I'll start heading over.
Yep. Awesome. This room is quite different as you walk into the room than the decor of the rest of the establishment. So the sort of gaudiness and bright colors and over-the-top made-to-impress decor is gone now as you walk into this room, which is a medium-sized room dominated in the center by a round oak wooden table with some chairs around it. In the center of that table, there is an object that is covered, appears to be a violet-colored cloth of some kind. It's unclear what is under it, except for the wall where the door is that you walked in. The other three walls are lined with wooden shelves that are filled with books and maps and random artifacts and things it appears that maybe have been collected throughout the years.
I'll definitely take a seat and kind of eyeballing, almost tourist. I'm putting on airs that I'm more naive than I am.
Very good, very good.
I quietly sit down, take a seat, don't really say anything. Leave the chatterboxing to Michael.
Before I sit down, I want to get a look around the room, like a detailed look, just to make sure that there's nothing here that we've missed. Again, I'm sort of like, I get that we're doing business in his private office, that's fine, but if this is where we were going to be smuggled out the back and, put into a black sack and dragged out into the middle of the desert, this would be the place to go ahead and take us from. I want to really get a good look around and see if there's anything that is hidden or not obvious or ostensibly dangerous.
Yeah, very good. That would definitely be a detective thing to do. So why don't you give me your notice roll?
Yeah, which is a D8 plus 2. Let's see what we got. Cool, so I got 2 6s. And so with the plus 2, those are both 8s.
However, the 6 on your wild die explodes.
Oh, yep, that's right. All right, let me roll
so
that.
you'll re-roll that one.
Oh, I almost got another 6, but it's a 5. So,
okay, so you have an 11 plus 2, so you've got a 13 total there.
Yeah. And,
That's a success and 2 raises. Strong roll. Yep, great roll. So what stands out to you? Nothing that seems like obviously dangerous. Like you don't see like a hole in the wall and somebody's like pointing a rifle barrel through or something like that. So there's nothing that looks like it's any type of like immediate physical threat to you. It just looks like a nice sort of dimly lit study. But as you're looking and scanning the things on the books on the shelves and stuff, you notice that on many of the spines, there either are no titles or the titles are in different languages or different alphabets that you're not familiar with. And it just, to you, as someone who is a detective and always looking for people's motivations and things like that, it just seems very, very scholarly for someone who made their fortune raising and selling cows.
Okay, so 2 things. I do have... So when it says language native, is that like the equivalent to like the common language, or is that like
that for you is English? Yes.
Is English.
Is
Okay,
your native
All right. Yeah.
Yes.
Cool. All right. Put that away. I do also have a D6 ability in occult. So,
Okay.
is any of this ringing occulty bells?
Go ahead. And as everyone is taking their seats at the table, give me an occult roll at. I'm going to give you a -2 penalty on this. This will be a tough one.
All right.
May I make that roll as well? Because that was going to be something I was going to be asking about.
Yeah, you both can be keyed in on the same thing. Yep.
I did not critically fail, but I am burning a Benny to reroll that.
I actually also have a D6 on occult. I want to do the same.
And I'm going to burn a Benny as well.
Okay. Yeah, and go ahead, Sergio. That's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You said a -2 penalty.
Yeah, everybody's going to have the same -2 penalty on this.
All right.
Yep.
So it's a 2 and a 2 then. So nothing for me.
Okay.
My best set of rolls only landed me a 3 after the negative. So
Yeah, I got a critical fail on my wild die, so I'm going to burn a Benny and reroll.
Did you rolled so a critical fail, just so we're clear here, is when the skill die and the wild die are both ones.
Oh, okay. No, that was just a 1 on the wild die. I got a 5.
Okay, so that's not a crit. Not a crit.
Okay, so then I'll still burn a Benny and try to get a reroll.
Okay.
I got a 6 and a 1 on the wild die.
Okay, and the 6 was on what was the die?
A D6.
So that explodes. So you roll that again.
And that's a 4.
Okay, so you've got a 10 -2, so you've got a total of 8.
All right.
Make sense?
success with 1 raise.
Exactly.
Awesome.
Perfect. So we had you guys came up short, but the priest is looking for stuff and basically
to the evil arcane arts.
Yeah, basically, although you can't put like clear definition to what exactly any of these things are. These are not like, oh, that's a book I've read or anything like that. You can tell that there is basically a extreme eclectic collection of occult materials along the shelves of these walls, and that obviously it's something that would have to be either like collected at great expense from around the world, or would be in a museum or something like that, and that it would not be just on an average person's casual reading bookshelf. These would be secret documents and things like that.
So it's not by happenstance, like, oh, this book looks interesting, or I have a passing interest in what this book may say. It's definitely curated.
No, it's like volumes of things, and even if you don't know the language that they're in, you have seen such things in your time where you remember the shapes and the symbols and can associate it that way. So you're certain there are things here that are at least pertain to the supernatural or the otherworldly. Although you can't really say this book is on werewolves or something like that. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And I can totally see like the way that this scene plays out. You guys sit down, I'm like looking around the room and maybe even like absent-mindedly like work my way over to the bookshelf because that's what catches my attention. And then both of you guys look over there and go ahead and say, "Oh," and that's where you pick up your like that's how the scene makes sense to me.
Yeah, it's also noticeable that Oliver Booth is not like hiding this material from you or anything, or saying pay no attention to the shelf behind the curtain. He's just like, come on in, sit down.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Again, I just think if that's what Finn would have if that's what caught my attention, then I would have probably moved in that direction before sitting down. You know?
Yeah, absolutely. You probably did a lap around the room. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And then I'll sit down eventually. So.
Very good. All right.
I grab a seat after looking about, so without much more than that.
So as you folks are seated around the table, he takes one side of the table and stands before you. And you also can tell his demeanor has changed a little since you've gone into sort of private quarters with him. He's not quite as just like out there and goofy as he is like out in public amongst the folks. He's still like wearing a ridiculous outfit. He's still like a fancy guy, but he's a little bit more to the point, and you can tell probably a bit more serious in his demeanor. He begins speaking. He says, "My friends, I luxuriate in the joy it brings me to welcome you to my humble little slice of paradise. Days in Blackwood Gulch are filled with monotony of earthly pursuits like the investments and profit tabulations of the cattle market. But it's a comfort to know that when the telltale signs of pernicious evil begin to show, there are good people who answer the call. We are truly comrades in the most fundamental struggle, the struggle for the very soul of our world." And as he says that, he looks at you and he reaches to the center of the table and he removes that violet cloth that was over an object there. And you see sort of a smoky black looking crystal, maybe a foot tall, mounted on a round dark wooden base or plinth in the center of the table. He continues to speak. He says, "My friends, I believe an opening between our world and the spirit realm is soon to be created. I have certain sensitivities about these things, you could say. Chief Tushunka and his shamans are planning to carry out a veil weaving. It comes to me from reliable sources within the tribal nation that they have been worried about the fear that has been pervading their land for some time. They plan to call upon a great spirit to come forth and vanquish whatever foul demons, spirits, devils or otherwise are lurking in our part of the world. At first blush, this seems a helpful conjuring, and far be it from me to deny the tribe their right to practice that which they hold sacred. But I have seen some things of late that I believe indicate much darker motivations are at play, motivations unseen by Chief Tushunka and his people." As he finishes that statement, he focuses his attention in on this crystal in the center of the table, and you see his gaze goes 1,000 miles away as he loses himself in this crystal, and he extends his hands out around the round table towards you as though beckoning you to join hands with him as he is distracted and looking into this crystal on the table. What do you do?
I look at Padre.
I nod my head, indicating that we should go ahead and join hands.
Done.
Padre says it. We're good.
Yeah, you get the nod from Padre, and you join hands, and as soon as the circuit of hands is complete, you're immediately jolted away from the room collectively. You find yourself in a completely different place. You're on a high rock outcropping. You're outside now, somewhere in the wilderness. You're not sure where. Below you, in the distance, off of this cropping, you can see a hill in the distance, a large hill that has a clearing on the top of it. The view all the way to the horizon is of shifting shadows and twisting leafless trees along the bases of these hills. And it's weird because these shadows and clouds, they begin to either take the physical appearance or at least make you feel the feeling that reminds you of your own individual greatest fears as they crawl into the front of your consciousness.
My weapon.
Very good. Booth is with you. He is standing on the outcropping with you, although he doesn't look like the Booth you just met. There is something you know within you that it is him. He's no longer in his outlandish, garish attire. He's in dark, ragged robe that it seems to twist and kind of twirl in the wind with almost a mind of its own. His hair is longer and disheveled. Remember, he was bald when you met him, and he's looking at you with one finger kind of pressed over his lips as if to indicate for you to be silent. And he's with the other hand indicating down at the base of that hill in the distance that you're overlooking, in these sort of knotted, twisted, anguished-looking leafless trees in the darkness there. He's pointing and indicating with the other hand. He begins to whisper, and you can't tell if he's actually speaking out loud or if his communication is just coming into your own mind. You're not sure. But you hear him say, "There." And he's pointing down at these trees. He says, "They are waiting on something. This is the site of the veil weaving ceremony. This is where the tribe planned to call forth the Great Spirit into our plane. And it can't be a coincidence." And as you look down into the trees that he's indicating, you can barely make out these shadowy figures walking and lurking in amongst the trees. It's very hard to make out. Are they people? Are they Americans? Are they indigenous people? What are they? It's very hard to tell. There's no definition. And as he's explaining that to you, you hear a wretched, anguished cry echo out from those dark shadows. And this grotesque-looking spirit starts bounding with superhuman speed and strength out of the trees and up the rocky outcropping towards you. As it leaps into the air off of a boulder towards where you are stood, you can see that it certainly is not a man or a human of any race or creed, and it is just a human-shaped, roughly shadowed figure, almost flying through the air with long, shadowy claws as it jumps down on you, and it appears it's going to crash into you as you are suddenly jolted back to your seats in the back room in the Red Desert Palace, all still holding hands, probably trembling slightly around the grayish smoky crystal in the room. You can see Oliver Booth there, just eyeing all of you, observing your initial reactions to this vision.
What in thunder was that?
Yeah, something like that.
I take a moment to compose myself.
Yeah.
He nods and he looks and he says, that was a vision into the spirit realm. And that place I took you is the spirit realm is you could call it a copy of our world. It is where the spirits inhabit the places of our world. And the place I showed you is where Chief Tashunka and his tribe plan to hold a veil weaving ceremony. However, as you can see, there are some sort of shadows lurking there, waiting, it almost appears, as though they know something is going to happen. I don't quite understand this, but I'm very worried about an opening between the spirit realm and our world taking place, because these shadows potentially could make their way into our world.
I knew I sensed something off about this town as soon as we stepped off the train. This it perfectly explains it. I feel that we came at the exact right time. We were destined to be here. And I look at Michael and Finn. We were destined to be here to make a difference.
I want to be very helpful.
But
I am not convinced that there's anything I have except for the possibility of going to the general store and picking up some matches that can do anything about whatever incarnation that was.
I understand. Booth is listening to you, and he knows you guys are worried about this. And he says, "Look, I'm not blaming the chief. He's a good man. I have met him on occasion, and I believe he has the right to perform his rituals any way he should. But I believe he is unaware of the danger he is walking his people into. And I'm too old to do this. Just to be frank, I can't do it anymore, and that's why you were summoned to assist me. I've got all the knowledge, I've got all the resources, but I don't have the wherewithal to be riding into the hills on some crazy mission anymore."
I'm happy to be part of a posse that's going to help take care of something like this. But you mentioned resources.
Yeah. How do we... What do we even do?
I got buckshot and a shotgun. And I'm guessing that's not going to be terribly helpful.
He agrees. He says, we don't understand the power of these. We can only look into the spirit realm and see what we have seen, but we don't truly understand the power. What I can do is I can provide tangible resources. I can provide horses. I can provide information. I can also provide the resources of my library here, if that should be of benefit to you. I think the only outcome here would be to protect Chief Tashunka and his people from allowing their veil weaving ceremony to get out of hand or to be corrupted or the control of it taken from them. I don't support the idea of you, Michael, pointing a shotgun at shadows from the spirit realm. I think that would be the last thing you ever did.
Unless there's something that we might be able to use that could help hurt them, but Finn, I heard that that fairies in the old country you could cast iron might cause them problems or something like that. So maybe we could find whatever the weakness of these shadow demons might be. We might be able to come together with some ideas. And if you've got books and we've got a little bit of time, hopefully we can locate some information.
So where do you think the influence of these shadow demons would be most likely to appear? Would the chief think that this was an inside job? Would there be somebody assisting with him with the ritual that would be able to turn it to evil? Or is the chief himself going to be taken over? Or is it something like influences outside of his family and his tribe that would come and spoil the ceremony? Like, where do we think the most likely vector of attack is here?
I can tell you what I know, and that is limited, but it is possible that perusal of my library may shed more light on this. But what I know is the veil weaving ceremony is a time-honored tradition of Chief Tashunka's people. They only use it in times of great need and great despair when they're unable to help themselves. So it's a rare thing, but my sources in the tribal nation said they're planning to carry one out. So they must be in dire circumstances. What this does is it calls upon some great ancestor of theirs, a spirit animal of some kind, to come forth and assist them in their troubles in various ways. And it opens as they say, although I've never seen one myself, it opens a rift between the spirit realm and ours, and allows that great spirit to enter. My worst fear is that it also allows other things to enter, and that perhaps his shaman may know how to ward against that or prevent it, and beyond that, I don't know. These creatures, they look like pure shadow to me. They're mischievous, they're violent in nature, but I don't know what they are. I'm fairly certain we do not want them running around among us.
So, your position is not that the ceremony can't go on at all. It's just that the ceremony needs to not open the front door and let anything walk through. It needs to be specific to what they want to come through.
Yeah, he realizes something as you're asking this, and he says, I forgot that you're not from around here. And it should be clarified that Blackwood Gulch is a town of about 1,000 hard-working, tough, God-fearing people. And although I put all my faith in them, one day's ride to the north is the Sioux Nation, where there are 80,000 of the toughest warriors who have ever lived on the Great Plains of this continent. And telling them what they will or will not be doing on their own land with their own religion and beliefs is not something that's going to go over well.
Fair point. So I think perhaps we research here, Padre, and perhaps your gifts in this area, especially for the book reading, might be most helpful. And then we go and try to talk to the man himself, perhaps. And how open should we be with Chief Tashunka?
I don't think we should be telling the religious man that his religion's about to do bad things. That
No.
goes over poorly.
No. But letting him know that we are here to observe because we understand the darkness that they are trying to prevent, level with the man. Don't accuse the man of being the source of darkness, but level with the man and let him know that we're on the same side.
Padre, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think what Mr. Booth is suggesting is the chief just needs some bouncers at the party.
Obviously.
Some people are allowed through the velvet rope. And other people got to be kept out. You're on the list or you're not on the list. I think we're pretty good at spotting those who aren't on the list, and we're going to help keep them out.
Obviously, what Chief Tachanka believes and what his people believe is not what I believe. However, on the spectrum of good and evil, we are all on the same side. And while I agree with Finn that telling Tachanka that what he is doing might be used as a vehicle for evil, might not endear him to us, I also agree with you, Michael, in that I feel our best utilization is to protect the ceremony and to, as you said, keep anyone who doesn't need to be inside out.
Excellent.
Do I have your assistance?
Oh, you had us at hello. You serve an excellent steak, sir.
I knew I was going to like this one.
They all do. They all do.
It's late. Obviously, you are welcome in my establishment. Make yourself at home. I will arrange for horses to be ready for you in the morning if should you choose that you are going to need them. In the meantime, please avail yourself of my library or come and go as you please amongst the community. Do what you have to do. If you need me, I'm here. And I'll do everything I can to support you. Do you have any other questions for me?
No, sir.
No, sir, but that might change as we go through your books.
I imagine it will. Not many people read my books without having a few questions.
Excellent. With that, once we're left to our own devices, I'm going to start looking for anything that is going to be like Defense of the Dark Arts. I got to get me Master Snape Volume 1, 2, and 3 here.
Get you a Patronus, yeah.
That was some scary shit.
Okay, so you guys are going to mostly spend the evening in the library then, it sounds like. Anybody doing anything other than that?
It seems to make most sense to me.
Yep, same.
Okay.
I'll have some coffee sent in.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. They've got that. Does anybody have research?
I do.
I believe the detective does, yes.
I do, yes.
Okay. We're going to start with you because you have the most pertinent skill in terms of perusing these books based on the information that you've got from Oliver Booth and trying to find stuff that like corroborates that or sheds some light on it. Now,
right.
That being said, both Michael and Padre have some occult knowledge that they could use to support you on this role and make these things easier for you, basically clarifying things that you don't understand and things like that. So what we'll do is we'll have both, if you want to, Padre and Michael can roll occult. With a success, you'll add a +1 modifier to the detective's research roll.
Okay.
I like it.
I think I'm actually going to... I have a success, but I'm going to spend a Benny because I'm going to try to get a raise here. I think it...
Okay. Spending a Benny?
This is important enough worth that effort.
I got an explosion on my wild die.
Okay,
As
so
do
keep rolling.
8 total.
I've got an 11 total.
Hot dog.
All right, maximum on the support is +3, so you guys maxed out. So the detective, because of that great rolling, is going to do his research roll with a +3 modifier.
I like it. All right.
So you're rolling a d6 plus a d6 wild die and a +3 modifier to that.
That's an 8, so 2 successes.
Cool. Very cool. So, on the matter of the veil weaving, that's actually pretty easy to research because it's like actual local tribal practice. It's pretty rare, but it is a ritual that is carried out by holy men of a tribe. Usually involves spiritual bonfires, usually carried out at night, and it involves continuous chanting and prayer and summoning to their ancestors. And if it is successful, it opens up basically a portal from the spirit realm that allows them to call forth their specified ancestor that they are looking for help from to come into the world. But it is something that takes like intense focus over time. It's not, they can't snap their fingers and do it. There's no magical item, wand that makes this happen. It's a group effort from basically all of the tribe in some way helping this. And it's a very sacred and rare event. That's what you know about the veil weaving. In terms of the creatures, that was harder for you to discern. You had to look at some strange books with strange words in them and drawings and things. Some of the occult translations and stuff and inferences were made by your friends supporting you. Basically, the closest you can get to understand what they might be called is something like a wandering shadow. And it sounds like they are a mischievous, sort of lost, unhappy spirit of the spirit realm that just are very focused on getting out and exploring their curiosity about the world of people and getting into the world of people. And the way that they would have to do that is to escape the spirit realm and then find a mortal body to possess or inhabit in order to walk among men and cause all sorts of mischief and fear and mayhem.
And
since you got a raise on it, I'm just going to add that you also had an account of their special strengths and weaknesses, and they are exceptionally strong in the world of men. In the world of spirits, they're actually not very powerful spirits in the spirit realm. They're looked down on. There's a goblin of the spirit realm. But in the world of men, they are almost impervious to physical harm. They can fly. They have various magical abilities that vary from playing with people's minds, playing tricks on people, to other types of kind of malicious magic. So they're quite menacing if they are in the world of men.
Okay, several questions that are coming to mind. Let me hope that I remember them all here. Okay, so when you say the entirety of the tribe, do you mean all 80,000 people?
No.
Okay.
No. So Chief Tashunka's tribe might be 300 people or something.
Okay.
Like that.
All right. But it's basically a family affair. So it's not like we're going to be able to go ahead and say, Chief, here are the 5 people that you need to go ahead and do the thing. The other 295 sit outside the rope. We're not going to be able to go ahead and do that.
No, you could. You don't know if you can tell them what to do or not.
Yeah, fair.
But essentially, the people that would be the core people for the ritual would be a chief, his medicine men. They'd probably have some other important members of the tribe there with them. All the other people help in setting up the ritual and supporting it and building the fires and things like that. But largely, they're not actually performing the ritual per se themselves.
Singing the songs, doing the dances, building up the spiritual environment, not performing the ritual itself. Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, they're just in support of it.
Yep. Okay. The bit about the shadow creature coming through the portal and then finding a individual to inhabit. Does it seem, and gentlemen, feel free to weigh in on this theory, but I'm not sure how well we're going to do at keeping a portal to the Shadowlands only bringing forth the spirit that they're asking for, not anything else. Is it better to let it come out and then deal with it here once it has inhabited a flashy speck of mostly water.
That is similar to the question I was going to ask, so let me pose my question here as well and see if we can get a combined answer on that. My question was, knowing what they are, and they're stronger on the outside than they are on the inside, did we, and you said we got an idea of their strengths and weaknesses, and forgive me if I missed it, but did you say what their specific weakness was on this side?
No.
Are they vulnerable to salt, iron?
No, really, their weaknesses all lie in being kept in the spirit realm, where they're fairly, compared to other great spirits, they're fairly weak. When they're here, they're just way more powerful than men, based on the detective's research. There's ancient tales of swords not harming them, things like that they're nearly impervious to physical damage like that. So it doesn't say a specific weakness that they have per se.
Okay, and then the last question that I had was whether or not there is any sort of account of when this was last done. Because I am looking at people like John Gage and Sheriff Beaumont and thinking men of influence who have some sort of a built-in struggle here. Could we already be seeing one on this side? And could that, because as far as we know, the ritual hasn't been performed yet, so the overwhelming sense of, darkness and impending doom that surrounds the town is already here. So are we really worried about the new thing coming, or are we worried about the thing that's already here? You know what I mean? Are you following where I'm going with that? Is that...
Yes. Yeah, I am. Since you rolled very well, I would say, although there isn't any type of book that says, here's the dates and times when all this occurred, you would know that various tribes use this ceremony. It is rare, but there are hundreds of small tribes, in that it's likely that it has happened, at least locally here, that it has happened in the last lifetime before this. It would be a question for Chief Tashunka to answer, probably. But it's not something that it's 1,000 years between them or anything like that. Yeah. It'd be like decades and decades in between.
So as I'm musing with this question, then I was like pawing through the books. I'm asking them questions and everything, and I'm like forming this hypothesis. And I'm like on this topic. What is it that's going on in the town right now that is causing the need for this ceremony in the first place? Gentlemen, how would you feel if in the morning, there's not a library in town, but there is a newspaper in town. I bought a newspaper when I got off the train. Would there be like an archive of news stories that I could talk to somebody about and try to piece together when the weirdness happened and what was happening when it did? Would that be an option?
Are you asking if you can review the microfiche?
I'm sure that, look, it might not be microfiche. It might be a dude named Seth that's worked at the newspaper for 25 years. But yeah, exactly. Like that's like what like that's. I just want to make sure that the Chief Tashunka thinks that the ceremony is necessary, but maybe we should be figuring out why it's necessary before we start talking about how to go ahead and keep the ritual from going the right way.
I think you're not wrong. I think we need to confirm the time of the ritual so we know how much time we have to spend doing research versus getting there and doing the deed. But I do think that it is important to note that there's a reason it's necessary, and then we're going to have to make friends with those doing it so we can be in position to help them. And that making friends may take some time. I have no problem with doing any kind of research or asking any kind of questions. And in fact, I think I might try to ask a few folk that question as well, but I listened to a lot of things when we were out there on the main Pala, and I did notice that there was a lot of talk about the the cost of cattle in Laramie versus here, the futures in Laramie and here, and I think with the information you're trying to get, if we can correlate cost and productivity of the beef and all of that, we might be able to secure a timeline. And if we can pin that timeline to some individuals, we might know who's behind the problems.
So just as a point of order, Oliver Booth indicated that to you that he believes the veil weaving ceremony is going to take place in the next night or two, the next 1 to 2 days, is what he feels.
So I would say we probably, I would say we probably got the morning to do your thing and get that together, but we better be riding off of Tashunka's before the noon meal.
Or
get a sack lunch, get on them horses, and be riding before noon.
Mr. Booth, when you said that where we're going is a day's ride away, do you mean it's a leave when the sun comes up and get when the sun gets there, goes down sort of thing, or is it a leave when the sun comes up and camp the night and get there the next morning?
Good question. So, although Chief Tashunka's camp moves around, it's likely he believes that it would be about a day's ride to the north to get to this hill that you guys have seen in this vision. And if they're there, that would probably be a full day's ride with no roads. That's over rough Wyoming territory, so it'd be a difficult, long day's ride.
I don't believe that we really have time to waste.
No.
Nope.
Unfortunately.
I was thinking whether it made sense to go ahead and send you two in the morning, and I would, as Mr. Cartwright said, take my sack lunch with me at noon and meet up with you in the evening, but I'm not sure that would be the best course of action, so...
I don't think anybody riding through Badlands all day by themselves is a good plan. Even if something as mundane as your horse took lame would be bad enough.
Yeah. Not my favorite, so... Maybe we save this line of inquiry for after we save the world from impending invasion from shadow forces.
I think we do. I think we go and make nice with the peaceful folk to the north and try to do some good.
I agree.
Okay, so just for me to summarize, it sounds like you guys are making a plan to get up early, get on horseback, and ride north based on the coordinates you're getting from Oliver Booth and try to make contact inside the Sioux Nation.
Correct. Like, I'm thinking we try to get up before first light, so by the time our horses are saddled, provisions are on, and by the time we head for the road, that's when the sun's coming up, so we're as early as possible.
Mr. Booth, are there any Sioux in town or that come into town that we might be able to use as an envoy to get us in there? Because I would imagine that we're not going to be able to ride right in, ask to speak with the chief, and be granted an audience.
Yes, there is a treaty that we are not supposed to go into the Sioux Nation, into the Black Hills. They're not supposed to come here, but it is common knowledge that we trade with them. And that we have trade relations. We both trade various materials back and forth. There are no members of the nation in town that I know of. It's rare that they come, maybe but once a season, to trade for goods. There may be people in town who know more about that than I do. I would have to say I don't have need to trade for the crafts that they sell, and I haven't for a long time.
But I bet you Prescott's Provisions does.
Well, they're a good family, and they know many things. They don't sell tribal made goods, but who knows? They may know.
One last question then. Would some sort of letter of introduction or something that they would understand that came from you, and no disrespect when I say it this way, but would that help or hurt our cause?
I haven't seen my friend Tashunka in many years now, but we have had some exciting times, younger days, back when things were a little messier out here. I'm happy to scrawl down a note of introduction for you for whatever good you think that may do.
I think anything we can go in pocket helps.
He's happy to. He actually gets out some paper and is writing something with a really lavish, like, peacock feather pen. He's like doing something, scrawling something down for you.
If I could ask, Mr. Booth, the last time you saw the chief, did you share a joke or a story that you might impart upon us so when we do make that introduction, we can ensure our veracity?
Ah, what a great idea. He starts to think. He's like holding the pen up. He's starting to think, and he's, oh, yes. Yes, I'll write this down. He'll be sure this was me. I'm sure. He starts scrawling something down on the paper. He's giggling a little to himself. And then he checks himself. No, this is very serious. This is very serious.
Excellent. Good thinking. All right, I think let us try to run to the general store and try to catch Prescott maybe before they close up for the night. If we're trying to hit the road early, just might be worth checking them out.
Sure thing.
Okay. Want to do that?
Yep.
Yeah,
absolutely. All right. Everybody going, or some of you? Who's going?
Yep.
I definitely want to go.
Yep.
Okay.
Mr. Booth, I really appreciate you've been very, very helpful. Thank you very much.
Yes, I'm at your service, and remember not to apply any undue pressure. But I do think the very integrity of the fabric of the veil between mankind rests in your hands.
Fair enough.
Outside, it is now dark. There are very few lanterns on a few porches, but it is pretty much dark in Blackwood Gulch. But surprisingly, as you're exiting the Red Desert Palace, the street is very busy. There are a lot of people moving down the road in one direction in a clustered mob of people that are excitedly chatting and talking, all walking in one direction. And you can overhear several different conversations about, oh, the sheriff is calling people together. He's got an announcement. He's got to tell us about something. People are like tittering back and forth about what it's about. And, oh, it's supposed to be about John Gage. Maybe he found out where he is. Maybe we're going to get him. Maybe he's rustling up a posse. We're going to find out. Let's go see what he's got to say. And they're all,
I knew this was too easy.
They're all real excited. And all heading towards the clearly marked sheriff's office on Main Street there.
Let's go see what the sheriff has to say. Or should we split up? Do you want me to go to the sheriff and you go to the provisions? Nope.
That was very quickly vetoed.
No, I do not think that is a good idea.
Wow. Okay.
All right, fair enough.
We stick together.
All right.
Okay, so where do you want to go?
I think we go see what the sheriff's on about, because my guess is they're not going to be open at the provision place, because they too will be headed to hear what the sheriff's got to say.
Yeah.
Right.
I figure we go, and I don't want to be at the front of the crowd, but I don't want to be back so far as I can't see what's going on, but I want to be off to the side-ish so I can observe.
Yeah. Okay. Good observation point.
Yep.
Okay. Very good. Yeah, there's probably 100 people gathered about, some of them with some lanterns at the sheriff's office, which is a single-story, nondescript building with the sheriff's sign out front. Leaning on one of the posts of the front porch is a man who looks sheriffy to you. He's got the badge, he's got the vest, his arm is in a sling, he's got a grimace on his face, he's got a big 10-gallon hat down over his eyes, and he's obviously waiting for people to assemble. There is also a Mexican woman on the porch in a beautiful, traditional, floral, brightly colored Mexican dress, sort of beside me, and everybody else is crowding below the steps of the porch. As people are settling in, getting quiet, this gentleman begins to speak. And he says, "Good citizens of Blackwood Gulch, it brings me no pleasure to stand before you this evening and report yet another miscarriage of justice that must be reconciled. As I was injured and I barely escaped with my life just 2 days ago, when the violent, murderous, thieving rapscallion John Gage and his men trapped me in a cowardly ambush and escaped being brought to justice, where they surely would have found their way to the gallows. The crowd starts cheering about this. Screw John Gage, you're the best sheriff. You'll get him next time. Don't worry about it. And he continues to talk. He says, and to heap more pain on our bad luck, another tragedy has befallen me personally that puts the safety of all the hard-working, God-fearing people of Blackwood Gulch in jeopardy. You see, last night, in my very home, my innocent daughter, Mariposa, was taken from her bed and secreted away into the darkness by our enemies to the north and their treacherous Chief Tashunka. And now the crowd's incensed. They're yelling and they're getting outraged about this crime against them and against their sheriff. And he settles them down with his hands and he finishes and says, "Brave people of Blackwood Gulch, my deputies and I will conduct our investigation with adherence to the laws of our land. Once completed, we shall organize a fighting force to retrieve Mariposa and return her to safety in the loving arms of her worried mother." He indicates the woman standing beside him. It says, "Just like I would do for any of you. I ask you to look inside yourselves and find the courage to step up and join the side of good and civility when the time comes. Thank you." And fervent, righteous cheering from the crowd as they're clapping. And then they slowly, after a moment, begin to dissipate and return to their respective places. The sheriff is shaking a few people's hands, chatting with a few people at the stairs of the porch to his office, but most people are dissipating. Now, while he was making that speech, were any of you... Tell me about what you guys were doing while that speech was unfolding.
I'll go last, but I definitely had something I was doing at a specific point in the speech.
Perfect. Awesome. Anyone else?
Is there any way that I discern how truthful I felt he was?
Yes.
How truthful he was being?
Yeah, I think for you, it's going to be your notice.
Okay.
And we'll see how good you do, what you uncover there.
All right, so I'm going to try to notice something. That is a 6 and a 4.
Okay, so so the 6 is the highest one. That's the one you're sticking with?
Yep.
Okay, good. So that's a single success. You basically observe his mannerisms to try and align those with past mannerisms you've seen when people have either been truthful or not truthful with you. And as a priest, you spend a lot of time talking to people, and sometimes they're telling you the truth and sometimes they're not. You can't tell if the story he told you is true or false. You don't know that. But what you do know is the way he acted, because you've counseled so many people as a priest, like in their moments of pain and things like that, you can tell, okay, this is a person who just apparently had their child taken from them, which is a really big emotional disaster. And it didn't appear that the sheriff it appered that there was more anger and energy around his anger than there was the emotion of a parent having the uncertainty of where their child is, which is much more of a panic. This was more of I am mad and I've got a plan and this is what I'm doing. And that just, for some people, like soldiers and things like that may be like the way they operate. But to you, it just strikes you as, whoa, a
bit odd.
That's weird if somebody's really going through a crisis like that.
Okay.
Anybody else?
Yeah, so as he was talking about his daughter being taken by the tribe and everything like that, and specifically mentioning Chief Tashunka, I want to think back to the research that we were just doing and see if there is any sort of either different ritual which might need a willing or unwilling sacrifice, or something with this particular ritual that would back up why I'm trying to figure out, like, if they took her, why did they take her? Or what what they think, could this be what they think the source of the darkness is? Is it something to do with his daughter? Is it something to do with him? Like all that sort of, I'm trying to think back and see if there's any sort of connection to them doing this act with what we're about to go and investigate.
Okay. So although you didn't have time to just like research like rituals in general, like how many might have sacrifices or not, you were able to really research the veil weaving. And so you're 100% confident it is nothing about sacrifices. Nobody is supposed to die or be hurt or taken or nothing. It's not related to that whatsoever as far as all your research shows.
Okay.
So
anybody else? Oh yeah, Lewanika, you said you had something to go, you wanted to go left.
Yeah. At that same moment that Josh was thinking back, that's when I want to do some serious crowd scanning. I want to see who here is observing the sheriff from the perspective of, I guess I'm not catching that this makes sense, right? I don't get the sense that this is what the Sioux would be doing. And if that's the case, somebody is either fooling the sheriff or forcing the sheriff to do something he doesn't want to do. And I'm thinking Gage has kidnapped the daughter and told the sheriff, you send a posse to stop that or I hurt your daughter. And so and if it is the latter, somebody's going to be observing the sheriff to make sure he does what he was told. So I'm looking for that individual. I know criminals, I know extortion, I know how that kind of seedy, you're going to do what I say and make it real public kind of thing would work. Protection rackets, all that kind of thing. So I'm looking for the person who's overseeing this sham of a speech.
Okay, so we'll say because you said you stood off to the side, we'll say you stood up on maybe like a neighboring porch or something where you could just purview more people in the torch, in the lantern light, and try to see if you could gauge that by the interest level or any other characteristics that you might think of. Go ahead and give me a notice roll on that and make it good.
Now, would I be able to add my streetwise to that? Which is +2 to common.
I'll tell you what. The streetwise is more for networking, where you're actually going and talking to people, not visually scanning. If you just want to visually scan, we'll use notice. If you want to actually go start talking to people about this, we can do it more as a networking thing. But it will take time. You'll have to go schmooze with the crowd a bit.
So I think I want to scan first and see what I have and see if that's going to give me any benefit to the networking that follows. Because I want to have an idea, like basically narrow the field kind of thing.
Sounds right. Yep. Okay.
That is going to be a need for...
So your notice, D4.
Yep, I'm going to spend a Benny there and re-roll that.
Okay.
And I got the exact same roll on both die. I only have a 4 or a 3, so not enough.
Okay. So, you have a 3. Okay, so you did not reach a success.
Wait, I'm actually going to use my common bond edge. And
okay. All right.
For Michael.
All right. So I'm gonna take one from you, and so Michael is gonna re-roll for a third time and not roll the same thing.
I am not, and I got a 4 on a wild die and a 2 on the regular die.
Nice.
Okay. Woo! Okay. So that's what it's all about. You eked out a success. So mostly what you notice are concerned citizens. They look to be just listening to what the sheriff says and being quite supportive of him. And also just the fact that they're in a crowd that's riled up makes them all have that mob mentality anyway. So it's hard to tell in that group who that might have any different opinion on that. However, there are people, not many people. There is one person who stands out. It's a scrawny guy. He looks like he might be a little drunk or something. He is noticeably off to the side, just leaning against a barrel. And he doesn't look like a bad guy or anything like that. He just looks like some kind of scrawny, dirty, cowhand guy. But he doesn't seem surprised by anything that's being said. So, like, when the crowd reacts to, like, Mariposa is taken or whatever, he's just, like, very even keel about it. When he talks about this, when the sheriff says, and I think it was Chief Tashunka to the north, he doesn't seem, surprised by it like everybody else. He's just kind of like listening as though, like, maybe he heard it before. It's the only thing that really stands out to you.
Yep. So with that, I definitely will let my boys know what I'm on to, and I'm gonna do that networking thing. I'm gonna go in and strike up a conversation and try to get some more or get a better read on this individual. Basically, I want to talk him into.
Do you want? Okay, you want to talk to him specifically?
I want to know who he is before I get there. So that's part of the networking piece, is kind of like get an idea of what his name is and that, so I know. So when I get to him and I start trying to talk him up, I can gauge whether he's telling me who he actually is, if he gives me a name and that, and just have an idea of what I'm walking into.
Yep. Okay. That's going to take you some time. So you're going to begin doing that now. You're going to do your schmoozing and talk to some of the crowd folks and see, hey, wow, this is wild. I'm new in town, and this is crazy that this happens the first day I'm here or whatever. And oh, by the way, you know who that guy is over there? You're trying to figure it out. Yeah. So go ahead and make your persuasion, and you can add your +2 for your streetwise. Are you guys going to do anything while you see him go off and just start schmoozing, which you guys now know he is wont to do?
He does.
Yeah, and anything you guys are doing while that's occurring.
I would head over to the Padre and just be like, something about this stinks, and I don't know what, but something stinks.
And I start to talk to Finn about my feelings concerning, how I saw the sheriff acting and behaving and speaking, and how that doesn't really fall in line with the people in the past who I've talked to who are in the process currently within a crisis of some sort. That just something, his behavior doesn't seem to match the behavior of others that I've seen in similar situations in the past.
Yeah. And if Tashunka is currently trying to do this ritual, why would they draw undue attention? I wonder if, why would they be drawing undue attention to themselves by having something to do with the sheriff's daughter? It's all just seems fishy.
Yes, man, I agree. I don't think they would do something like this, especially at such a precarious time.
Right.
What did you roll, Michael?
That's a 7. With 7. The +2, that's all inclusive.
It's a single success. You good with that?
I am.
Yep. Okay. So as you guys are reconnecting and sharing what you think, he's out schmoozing through the crowd. What you find out basically is that everybody's the same mind. Oh, this is terrible. Like, what a run of bad luck for the sheriff. Getting injured, getting in a shootout, barely surviving. Then he comes home and his kid is gone. You do hear some rumors from some people around town. I was over at behind the sheriff's house today, and I did see that the back door of his house was ripped off. And so something definitely happened. That's scary. I thought there was some kind of accident or something. But
someone big and strong ripped the door off the hinges. Yeah, huh? Mm-hmm.
And the other thing that you find out there with your success is not much about this other guy, but like somebody goes, oh, Donnie over there? Yeah. Donnie, he like shovels shit out of the cow pens. He's a good guy, but just kind of hangs around, does what he's told, and spends his money at the bar.
I'm a fan of that. The bar, not the shoveling bit. But I think I might. Far be it from me to Cast shade. I mean, who amongst us hasn't enjoyed a beverage after a hard day's work?